Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Ola Brown. As you can see, I'm on a flight, but I still wanted to make the introductory remarks for this session. Our keynote speaker today is very special because she's from a company that I love, Landmark, which is the foremost real estate company in Nigeria. And she's chief of staff there. She works at the intersection of finance, investment, real estate, and strategy, and has sold nearly $20 million of real estate and has mobilized $5 million of private equity investment into the Landmark Group. The Landmark Group is the largest, as you probably all know, mixed use real estate company in Nigeria. And it's a real pleasure to have her here to talk about an asset class that we're all vaguely familiar with because everybody knows how to buy land and buy houses or thinks they do. But really having an expert here to help us delve deeper into the asset class and really understand how to make money and avoid losing too much money, because I know that people have a lot of real estate nightmares and horror stories, from government to omoniles to demolitions to etc. So she'll be taking us through all the ways to make a lot of money, and maybe some of the pitfalls to avoid as well. For people that are new to Women in Finance is the largest and leading organization for women that work in financial services. We have branches across Nigeria, London, and Rwanda, and we have an American chapter that's just growing. If you're interested in joining, please indicate in the chat, and our administrator will pick up your contact details and reach out to you for membership. It's great to have everybody here, and I really hope you enjoyed the session, and I'll definitely be watching the recording afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown, and thank you to everyone on the call. Thank you, Women in Finance Nigeria, for giving me the opportunity to take a little bit of your evening to talk about what is my day job, my night job, my side hustle, and my weekend hobby, and it's really real estate in Nigeria. So just give me a second while I'm pulling up the slides. Okay, and perhaps you can confirm once you've seen my screen, and we're good to go. Okay. Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up, so I think we can get started. Okay, so thank you again. So my name, as Dr. Ola Brown has mentioned, is Joche Angbazo. I've been working at Landmark for 5 years, and we are the leading development company for building business, leisure, and lifestyle destinations across West Africa. Our flagship destination here in Lagos has over 3.5 million visitors to our ecosystem. So here I head the sales and investments team, and that includes the development of our residential tower, the Landmark Waterview Apartments, the development and sales of that building. So in my time with Landmark, I've worked with hundreds of clients, from first-time buyers to seasoned professionals, and creating unique solutions for them across commercial, retail, residential, and hospitality asset classes. So I really have been able to understand what influences people to make decisions that leave them confident and satisfied with their decisions. So that's enough about me. Today is about you, and without going through the room and doing an individual introductions, I want to tell you what I know about the women in this room. And if you agree, feel free to put a thumbs up in the chat or react with an emoji. So first of all, I know the women in this room are not average, right? You're the leaders in your workplaces, your churches, and the communities, your mosques and the communities that you're a part of. You outwork, outpace, and outperform in all of the industries that you work with. You scale businesses, not only your own, but others. And you're now asking yourself, what is that next level to really scale? And real estate is that next level. Not because it's trendy, but because it's real, it's actually tangible, and it outlives the typical cycle that you see with a 9-to-5 or even an election cycle. It really stands the test of time over generations. So in the next few slides, I will do my best to help you get there by sharing some of the learnings that I've gathered in my journey in the real estate industry. So I'll start by showing this picture. I think we all can recognize this scene. We have David, an inexperienced shepherd boy who had no business being on a battlefield. And then we had his component Goliath, the daunting behemoth of a soldier who scattered anyone in his path. The Nigerian real estate market is much like this. It can be scary. We've heard horror story after horror story, as Dr. Brown mentioned in the opening, of people, really going into bad deals. But we all know how this story actually ends.
Yes, I have. I do apologize. Good afternoon. I had another meeting that will run over.
Okay, thank you. So yes, as I was saying, we know how this story ends. David, because he had an understanding that his predecessors didn't, was able to eventually conquer Goliath. So likewise, in the next slides, I will be sharing some of those hidden truths and some of the dynamics that are at play that can also help us conquer the real estate market. So first, what do we see? These are some of the macroeconomic trends that we can all understand and interact with and how they relate to the real estate industry. First is population growth. I mean, I don't have to recount stat after stat. I'm sure you've heard in every conference you've attended on how the population in not only Nigeria, but sub-Saharan Africa is booming. It's really surging. And this is good news for real estate because people need places. They need places to go to school, to live, to sleep, to shop, to relax, hospitals, and that's going to continue to drive demand in the real estate space. And of this population boom, a huge demographic that's growing within it is the youth population, and this is what we call the demographic dividend. The youth are increasingly upwardly mobile, connected to the rest of the world more than ever before, and they have different behaviors when they interact with real estate than the previous generations. They no longer want to just go to work and go home, but they require third spaces. These are places where you can interact with the community, their peers and the community around them. And so that's also fueling real estate. And that's also fueling the tourism growth. So like I said, this demographic is connected to the world in more ways than we've seen before. So you're seeing our culture, our music, our arts, our entertainment really seeped into the four corners of the world. So I know a lot of times we talk about the Japa syndrome and how people are leaving Nigeria, but there's an almost equal reverse trend that we also see where people, as they leave, they're coming back. And when they come back, they're bringing 4 to 5 people with them because everyone wants to experience this Nigerian culture that has taken over the world. Then we have infrastructure development. And, it's a tale as old as time where you have ports, rail, road networks, and now at air access, you will have development in those cities. So I'll use Dubai as an example. Dubai, before it became what it is today, the most visited destination in the world, it was a desert. But it was a desert conveniently located within a 6-hour flight of 2/3 of the world's population. And so the government in Dubai decided, they thought to themselves, how do we capture some of this market? So they heavily invested in their ports and they invested in their air infrastructure to increase access into Dubai. And now that's what's created the development that you see today. And lastly, currency volatility. This is probably the one trend that's least favorite to everybody on this call. But what helps in the real estate market is that it's actually a hedge against the devaluation of the Naira. So real estate acts as a natural hedge against that devaluation. So you're seeing people put their money into real estate as it continues to appreciate into the long term. So from those trends, what do we now see? What are some of the hidden market responses that we're seeing to these dynamics that are at play? First, I'll touch on land banking. So we have all seen, wherever development is going, people are trying to get there first. So they're buying up land, and typically people have bought to hold, but you're now seeing landowners working with developers in joint ventures so that they can also participate in the end game of the development. seeing off-plan developments becoming increasingly popular because people are confident in where the market is headed. So they know if they buy early, they will reap the future benefits. We have short lets. Short lets are incredibly popular for their profitability and their return on investment. And so through options like ownership or management, there are many ways you can get involved in the short let market without having to own the actual real estate. Mixed use developments. I mean, I talked a lot about how the demographics are changing and people are requiring third spaces. And so developers that are keyed into these changes, you'll start to see a lot more mixed use developments as opposed to standard standalone residential commercial buildings. It will now be mixed use. And lastly, tokenized investments. So previously, you had to have millions of Naira, hundreds of millions of Naira, and you needed to have it all up front, all now, if you wanted to participate in real estate. But now, because of the tech boom as well, we are seeing companies create opportunities where people with as little as $100 or 1 million Naira can start to benefit from the upside of the real estate market. Now I want to contextualize this a little bit because I'm sure everyone here wants to see themselves inside of these stories. And from my experience, like I mentioned, I've worked with many clients. And so I want to tell you the story of 3 clients that I've worked with and how they've been able to find success on their own terms in the real estate market. So first, we'll call her Madam Christina. And Madam Christina, she's one of my elderly clients at the time, but very early on when she just got married, just starting her family, she was your typical stay-at-home mother. Unfortunately, tragedy struck early when she lost her husband and she was now widowed and left to figure out how to take care of her kids and put them through school and really give them the future that she had dreamed of. Luckily, one of the strategies that she did take up early on was buying parcels of land in different locations here and there with the little money that she was able to pull together. And the way the story goes, one of those parcels of land was in what we now know as Lekki Phase 1. And so she was able to make on that investment and across her many investments, 200 times her original investment in those parcels of land. We have Temi Tope. She's a younger professional, moved abroad for her education, and became successful. She's a doctor, so she's making a bit of money. And she's been able to invest in things throughout the States. Because she's also seen this sort of brand Naija cultural immersion taking place across the world, she said she too should have what is essentially a piece of ownership of what is her birthright. And that is a piece of property in Nigeria. So she also started investing in properties in Nigeria. One of those properties is Landmark. So she's purchased with us and she purchased early, and now she's been able to realize already a 20% appreciation on that property in USD. And if she were to sell today, but she is holding onto that investment so she can realize the returns of having a short let in a tourism destination. And lastly, we have Patience. She's also now a retiree, but when she was working in the bank, she had colleagues that were all at her same level, earning the same salary. And upon retirement, her colleagues are reliant on their pensions to sort of live out the rest of their lives. But because she started early and she started small, using the bits of her disposable income that she could to invest in real estate, she now has a very sizable real estate portfolio that she's also able to lean on aside from her pension now in her retirement. So that's created 2 completely different trajectories has come from that real estate. And so what do we see in common across these stories? We're seeing real estate being used as a portfolio diversifier, right? We've seen that across these stories. We're also seeing strong dividend-based income, which is also diversifying your streams of income that you can earn. And of course, like I mentioned, the long-term capital appreciation that will be recognized from real estate investments. So just as I look at my time and I want to make sure that, I'm leaving you without, I make sure I don't leave you without some pitfalls to avoid. These are some of the things we've learned as Landmark over the decades of being in the real estate industry, especially globally, but especially in Nigeria. And the first is that timing is more important than strategy. Real estate is inherently a long-term play. Rome was not built in a day, as they say, and likewise, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The next best time is today. So there's no amount of analysis, or what we can call analysis paralysis, that you can get into that will save you when an opportunity leaves the station, right? When that ship sails, it sails. So you really want to make sure that, you're going into things calculated, but timing is super important when it comes to real estate. Location is more important than the building. You've heard it a million times before when talking about real estate. It's location, location, location. You wouldn't put a $10,000 house on a $100,000 street. Likewise, you wouldn't put a $100,000 house on a $10,000 street. And that's because it's not just the building, but it's the environment working together to deliver value when it comes to real estate. And that leads me to my third point, value trumps price. You can imagine a scenario where someone driving $100 million naira car is haggling over a 20,000 naira shirt, and it happens. And that's the clearest picture that price is not the only determinant of a good deal or a good value. So you want to bear this in mind when you're going into your own decisions, because you don't want to just go for the cheapest thing, because quality trumps price every time. Not doing your homework. So I know I've given many nuggets throughout this presentation, but it's incredibly important to contextualize everything to the specific scenarios you're working with. I mean, one example is, in the land banking, you might own a piece of property in some of these communities, but as Dr. Brown was hinted earlier in the presentation, we have cases of omoiles where they equally own that land with you because of their interest in their communities. And so that's one example of how you need to work with your local, you need to work with the local dynamics that are taking place to ensure everything is together. I mean, from that example, there's also making sure your title documents are verified, legal agreements are airtight. You've got to do your homework. And then lastly, not investing because of fear. So not to have scared you with my last point, but the truth is everyone is afraid, right? But the benefit exists for those who take the plunge anyway. Throughout history, we have seen real estate being used to create billionaires across the world. I mean, that is the vehicle that's created the most billionaires globally. And so I hope that with this presentation, I've been able to give you a little bit more confidence and assurance that the real estate industry is definitely one that you don't want to miss out on if you're looking at maximizing your money, your wealth, and creating long-term returns. So I'll leave you with this quote. It's from an American author who works with businessmen and women every day, leading them to 6-7-figure businesses, Fabian Fredrickson. And the quote is, "The day you plant the seed is not the day that you eat the fruit." This is true as for the Nigerian real estate and any real estate market across the world. So I hope that I've been able to plant a seed with you all and believing in this Nigerian real estate industry and the upsides to it. So thank you. I will stop here and turn it back over to the Women in Finance team. So I know Dr. Brown is not on the call. Is there someone from the Women in Finance team that is moderating the Q&A, or maybe I can just jump into that? Okay, let me see how to. I think I saw a hand raised.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good
Good evening,
evening.
everybody. If anybody has any questions, they can kindly raise their hands and your questions will be answered.
My hands were raised. No, not sure if I can proceed. Can I go on?
Yes, you go ahead, please.
Hi, Joche. Thank you so much. That was helpful, very encouraging. I think my question would be what you would recommend to be a good starting point. So if as a professional who's interested in the real estate market, but perhaps does not have a significant sum to commit at once, what would you say would be the best way to start and sort of build up, similar to some of the examples that you gave? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your question, Olakemi. I actually love that question because it means that you're keyed in to the conversation and you're ready to take that plunge. And it sounds like you've done what was my first step as well, which is the first thing you want to do is know yourself, understand yourself. So there are many different options that you can invest in, even at your stage, and even as you mentioned, with maybe the sums that you have to invest. But you want to understand your risk profile. There's different ways. There are different options that are riskier. There are things that are a little bit low risk profile. So you want to understand your risk profile and your pocket because there's no one size fits all. Then you want to understand the market, right? You want to research some of the wins and the losses from history because, like they said, history repeats itself. So you want to look into developments or real estate investment vehicles that have succeeded, some that have not succeeded so well in our Nigerian market, and then also look outside at some of the things that have succeeded in other locations, because often what's happening, Nigeria is just maybe 5 years behind what the successes of what's taken place in some of the more advanced nations in the world. And then so once you've done that assessment, you know yourself, you know your market, then you want to, based on your capacity, try and find the point with the ease of access, because like I mentioned, timing is so important. So you want something that is not going to be too high of a hurdle to get involved in. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of specifics, there's, like I mentioned on the call, there's land banking, there's management of short let. So all of those would be good options.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the next person can unmute and ask a question. That's Jared and Angbazo.
Thank you very much. Hello, Joche. It was a very excellent presentation that you gave. I really enjoyed it. The question that I have is, how do we navigate sort of constantly changing political climates when we are thinking about investment decisions? And I think it goes into your point about preparedness and doing your research beforehand, but just sort of how do you deal with the uncertainty around that area? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. So it's a good question because there is, every real estate market, Nigeria and others have their different dynamics that are at play. And Nigeria is unique for our interesting, or shall I say, colorful political climate. But again, it's important to remember the point that I made earlier, where real estate will outlive every election cycle that we see. So it's really important to have a long-term view when you're going into real estate decisions, because a government can be in today, a government can be out tomorrow, but your real estate will persist throughout times. But making sure that you do have your verified documents, because we've seen instances of where governments can sort of possibly frustrate landowners and developers. And so once you have your verifiable documents, you're not, fully out of the water because anything can happen, but you are that much more protected with your investment. So you want those verified documents, but a long-term view. Thanks. We have the next, I think, Oluwakemi, you have another question?
Oh no, it was the previous hand.
Previous
Thank
hand,
you.
okay, no problem.
Hello, good afternoon. Well done, Joche. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a quick question, and my
Yeah.
question is, would you say it's the right time to invest in Nigeria, considering some of the challenges that the real estate sector is facing currently? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. A good question. These are all very, very good questions. And the short answer is yes. As much as there are challenges in the Nigerian real estate market, Nigeria is an emerging market, right? So that means that the future is a lot brighter than the past that we've seen in Nigeria. So, and again, just going back to the point on, real estate being a long-term play, you want to make sure that you get to where, we always say here at Landmark, real estate is about finding out where the people are going and getting there first. And it's the same that you can say with the real estate market. You want to get into those markets before they turn, because once they turn, the people that were inside of those investments and inside of that market early will benefit from the upside. So yes, definitely, please, if you're interested, look into investing in the real estate market today, please. The next question we have from Viva Musa, you can unmute.
Okay, hi, Joche. This was really insightful. So if I were to invest in real estate in Nigeria now, where would you recommend that I invest? What states? And in Lagos, for instance, where would you recommend that we invest? I know you said, it depends on the person's, taste or the person's preference, but, we do know that, you could have some form of forecast or some form of prior knowledge as to where the key or the prime areas would be in future. So if you could recommend any, if you know.
Yeah. Sure, thank you. Thank you for the question. And I think before I maybe get into any specifics about specific locations, because it is important for everyone to do their research and sort of have an understanding and come up with some of these things themselves, I want to answer by giving some of the indicators on what will allow you to be able to even tell which locations are the best locations to go in. And one of the learnings that we have at Landmark is that success leaves clues. So, I've mentioned already how early infrastructure is a key indicator that a location is going to be viable in the near future. So we see what's happening with the announcements of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. We understand the Fourth Mainland Bridge. We understand there are other highways and developments taking place across Nigeria. So wherever you see development happening, you can be rest assured that there's going to be some development of cities around those locations as well. And then even, without looking at that, sort of coming a bit leveled down or more centered away from the infrastructure on the national level, you can look at some of the indicators of the different developments that you're interested in or that you're looking at. What is the local infrastructure in those areas? Are there comparable markets or investments that are in that area that you've seen be successful, or do you have parcels of land with similar factors that have not been successful? So that kind of, if we could have a crystal ball to tell us what the future would look like, we would all be millionaires. But that's a way to sort of have a crystal ball without necessarily having that crystal ball, but seeing where the clues of past successes are and how that aligns with some of the markets that you're looking at. But if you were going to tell me, of course, Lagos is definitely a good location. At least we've seen, and this is just coming from the Landmark end, with the announcement of our takeover of the Nikkei Lake Resort in Enugu State. Property value around the resort has shot up because people are keyed into those markets and they understand that something great is coming to Enugu. Let me buy now early, and be there ready when Landmark completes their final takeover and renovation. So that's a little hint, but I know the value that Landmark has delivered to the different locations we've gone to. So I hope that helps.
Okay, I think I see a question in the chat box. I'm just going to read it out for you now. It says, do you know of any institutions or regulations that protect us as prospective investors, such as protections from fraud, contract enforcement, mediation, etc.?
Yeah, good question. So, I think if there's anything that I've learned in my time with real estate is that probably the best thing you can have is a good lawyer. We have incredible lawyers at Landmark, and I think that is if you're not a lawyer yourself, that is probably the number one thing you can do, because they understand, first of all, the laws that are at place, and they also can help to verify the documents, the entities that you're engaging with. So you really want to make sure that you have that in a good lawyer in your tool belt. I think that answers the question. I hope I didn't miss anything out. But in terms of all of that, you want to make sure that you do your full due diligence, and you have a lawyer on board.
Okay, so does any other person have a question? Just raise your hands if you have a question. Okay, we have Temitayo Oguntade. Please, Ma, you can unmute.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. So my question is about real estate investment trusts. So I don't know whether I would like to speak more about that. I don't know how that operates in Nigeria. Would that be a very good vehicle to start with for people that probably are just starting with little capital? Thank you.
Yeah, no, good question. Real estate investment trusts, are a great vehicle in throughout the world. I'm sure. That's why you asked the question, because you've seen it be successful in other parts of the world. It's still very early in Nigeria, so we don't necessarily have fully developed, or at least we can't necessarily point to extreme or significant successes from the REITs that are happening in Nigeria. But to the question about being able to start small and start with little, it doesn't have to be in a sophisticated vehicle like real estate investment trusts. I'm seeing people through, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of ajo, or just pooling their money with maybe some of their friends or their family members, people that are like-minded, who have the same risk appetite and the same long-term view on real estate. They're coming together, bringing 100,000, joining it together, making it maybe 500,000, 800,000, up to $1 million, and they're buying properties. And from that, that is a way to start small with very little, and start to see returns over time. So it doesn't have to be, investing with little doesn't have to be in some sophisticated bucket. It can be as flexible as you need it for your situation.
Okay, we have Midele, can you unmute?
Good evening, presenter. I really appreciate everything you said so far. So my question is this: does your organization have like a current let me say opportunity that we can up on now? Maybe like if there's any land ongoing that you guys want to sell, and is it going to be a promo or is there any discount for someone who wants to up on any opportunity you are bringing forward now? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yes, we do. So I mentioned earlier that I am heading the development and sales of our landmark Waterview Apartments. That's an off-plan residential tower that's situated right in the center of our landmark Lagos ecosystem. So it's right in the middle of this dynamic tourism development. So we are selling properties. We have residential units starting from studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, all the way up to penthouse suites. And the benefit is that it's flexible payment. So just like I mentioned, you don't have to have all your money up front. Likewise, we are selling on milestone basis. So once we hit certain milestones in the construction, that is when your payments will be made. And we can talk about pricing and making sure that we have a flexible option for you. So feel free. I think if I can drop my email in the chat box, so feel free to just reach out if you have any questions. And as we have future developments, we'll let you know. I will share that, in our development, we've already sold over 40% of our units, and these are all people who have entered early. So a lot of those stories are from clients that have bought into the Landmark Waterview Apartment. So I will drop my email into the chat if you would like to ask further questions. And for anybody that wants to pick it up as well. I think I saw a question as well in the chat from Prince Adeyemi Ajayi. Can someone partner with your company on building a project like resort? If yes, a project like a resort, if yes, how? So yes, so if you're familiar with our Landmark Lagos ecosystem, you'll know that we had the Landmark Beach, and on the beach we had and throughout our ecosystem, we have over 80 different partners that come together to deliver this sort of Landmark Lagos experience. And a lot of these businesses and activities and outlets that you see are actually run by third parties. So likewise, you can pick up my email if you have an opportunity, either in Lagos or in any of our new developments, which is in Enugu, Port Harcourt, and the many more that are to come. If you have a sort of venture or idea that you'd like to go into to partner, definitely reach out to us, because we like to be the institutional landlord and allow small businesses and different businesses create their experiences from our platform. So thank you for the question.
Okay, are there any more questions? Does any other person have a question? You can just raise up your hand. Okay, so in the absence of any questions, well, this is the closing moment. Okay, we have a question from Paul. Can you just unmute your mic and ask a question?
Thank you very much. It's more of a comment than a question. Well done, Joche. And I just want to say that, real estate is a minefield, as well as, the opportunities and the challenges. It's a minefield, but it's also very rewarding when you get it right. And I think Joche has given a lot of the hints. As she said, success has clues. And, so we know the things that we've done well, and we know the things that we could do better. So thank you for the tidbits. Even I've learned some things here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Okay.
Okay, I think that's all for now. This is the concluding moment. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our speaker, Ms. Joche and Bazo, for this wonderful presentation. And on behalf of Women in Finance Nigeria, I'd like to thank everybody for joining this webinar. And I also hope it was insightful and you all were able to learn a lot. And also, Ms. Joche left email in the chat box, so you can just copy it and send her a question, or you can just send it to us, Women in Finance Nigeria @gmail.com. Yeah. So I'd like to thank everybody for this great opportunity, and thank you all for joining. We highly appreciate it, and we'll see you all next time in our next webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for joining and being a part of the conversation. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everybody.